Hi everyone, it's Sunday night and I'm here to present some new information to you and something about a new resource, some children's books. So let me know if you're here, and thank you so much if you are. Had a busy weekend, some beach time, which was great, but also just looking around for some things for the house. We had moved a few months back, so we've been slowly trying to find things to decorate with, which is always a lot of fun. But we are back to the routine tomorrow morning, back to another week of camp, which is good. All right, so the first thing I want to start with tonight is I'm going to talk about some children's books. If you have some kids in your house who are perhaps dealing with being afraid of the dark but are older, that sometimes still creeps up. If you have older children, not so much little toddlers who may be afraid of the dark a little bit, I have some good book suggestions for that, because that's something we talk about in our house a little bit. My kids are, nearly 6, so 2 nearly 6-year-olds, twins, and then my daughter's 4, and then my youngest is 2. So I'll talk about those books, and maybe you've heard of them before, but there's a few new ones in there I think you might like. And then I want to talk a little bit about Dyslexia Awareness. I have a suggestion for a documentary that I think is just fabulous, and I'd love it if you could try it out and think about that for October, because October is Dyslexia Awareness Month, and that is just such an important time for people in the dyslexia community to spread awareness to everyone, to dispel myths, share the facts, and so forth. And then I have one new resource, that I wanted to talk about hanging behind me. Some of you may have seen it on my Instagram stories this week. Some of you may have not, so I'll talk about that. Okay, so the first thing I have tonight is the picture books for kids who might be afraid of the dark but need a little humor built in. So this one isn't so humorous yet, but just to talk about nighttime and the phases of the moon. I love this one because it shows, as you read each page, hi Maureen. It shows the phases of the moon as you go, and as a different animal that may be out at night each time. And you see as the moon is waxing and waning throughout the whole story, and the language in it is just really rich. I think that's just a wonderful book. It's not really a humorous book, but it's one that if you're sort of winding down at the end of the day and need a good bedtime story, this is a great one. This one is by Britta Tecumtrup. So that's Moon. All right, so let's go on to some more humorous books, because my kids just love anything funny, silly. Potty humor is really popular in our house still. So, all right, so this one, Night Animals, is just hysterical. This is all about nocturnal animals that hear strange noises in the dark and wonder what that is. And they're saying, well, we're all night animals. We should be sort of used to this. And there's just a really funny part where the skunk, this is a well-loved book in my house, so I have, unfortunately, a few torn pages, but there is this part where the skunk sprays the possum passes out. You know, in the real world, possums will play dead as a defense, so that's one of the things you notice in the book, and it's just really, really funny. So Night Animals is great. That one is by Gianna Marino. We just saw a board book version of this too in a bookstore over the weekend. This is the hardcover. Okay, now moving on, kids who are a little older, if you like creepy carrots, then this book is great. Aaron Reynolds and Peter Brown together for Creepy Pair of Underwear. Now, my boys think this book is just the best because they're talking about underwear, and that is just a riot. So to them. So this little boy picks up from the story. He is getting older. He wants to not be called a baby rabbit anymore. He picks up this new pair of underwear that glows in the dark, but there's kind of a creepy element to it, and he's not really sure whether he likes them or not. He tries to get rid of them, and the creepy underwear keep coming back throughout the story. And then finally he realizes, after he gets rid of them for good, that the room is totally dark, and he actually misses having the underwear glowing in the dark and brings them back, and they just light up the whole room at the end. I won't show you what happens there. But if your kids really need a silly story about being afraid of the dark, creepy pair of underwear is great for that. And then a book that I think just matches so well with this, that I just got from a friend in the mail. She sends me new picture books each month, is this one right here. It's called Billy and the Mini Monsters. Now, my twin boys are really starting to get into wanting to read more chapter books with me, and certainly they're not readers just yet, but I am just starting to read chapters at a time. And this book is, once again, about a little boy who is kind of afraid of the dark, and he sees these monsters. Now, monsters are supposed to be scary, but the monsters in this book are hilarious, and they're little and funny, and they all have their quirks. So this book, after you read Creepy Pair of Underwear, pick up Billy and the Mini Monsters. It's a short chapter book, lots of great pictures in there, just lots of silly parts. So I think that your kids will really like them. So we went from moon, talking about the phases of the moon, to night animals, really funny, to creepy pair of underwear. There he is, Jasper's on the back, wearing the creepy underwear. And Get Creepy Carrots, if you haven't read that one too, that's so good. And then this one is a great match to go with Creepy Pair of Underwear, Billy and the Mini Monsters. And if you have some reluctant readers out there who would like to enter into the world of chapter books but aren't quite ready for the full-length chapters, this is a really nice transition into the world of chapter books if you want to try that. Okay? All right, so those were my picture book suggestions for tonight, because as we all know, I could talk about picture books all night long. I love doing that with all of you. And all right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about dyslexia awareness. So in October is a really big month. It's Dyslexia Awareness Month. Lots of people give presentations and talks and try to spread advocacy as much as possible throughout that month to let people know really what dyslexia is all about. In the state of Massachusetts right now, we're working hard on some legislation to get some dyslexia screening in as early, preschool, kindergarten, those early grades. And so far, we're about halfway there to get that moving, which is great news. So dyslexia awareness doesn't just happen in the month of October, as we know. You have to continue it throughout the year, and that's really the goal of my page. I love spreading dyslexia awareness as much as I possibly can. So last week I had sent everyone an email. So if you're on my email list, to all my subscribers, I sent an email called She Made Me Spell the Word Elephant. And I hope you got a chance to read that email. If you haven't signed up to receive my emails, you can do that on my blog. There's a little pop-up. You can do that super easy. Just make sure that you confirm your subscription, or else you don't get any emails at all. So there's a little follow-up email that you have to go through in order to start getting my emails. Well, I discussed this documentary, and I had some people asking about it. So the documentary that I had shown, we did a free screening of The Big Picture, Rethinking Dyslexia. This is directed by James Redford, so related to Robert Redford. He has received quite a few awards for this. So I had mentioned this in my email that I had done a screening of it in the town that I was currently living in at the time to spread some more awareness. And there was a man who had come up to me at the end. He was elderly, who had stayed and watched the whole film with us. I had spoken a little bit about dyslexia at the end. And then he came up to me and tearfully shared a story of how he had struggled with dyslexia, struggled learning to read through school, and relayed a story to me about having to go through spelling bees. We all remember those, right? And his 6th grade teacher asking him, I think they did like a weekly spelling bee, had to get up in front and spell the word elephant. And to this day, this man was in his 70s. It caused him to break down into tears over it, because just the hurt and the shame and the humiliation of having to do that, knowing that he didn't know how to spell that word, was really overwhelming to him. Now, he had gone on to become a very successful contractor, had a great business, had married, had children, went on. But I think what hit home to me is that these stories of just shame and humiliation and the emotional toll that it takes on people who really don't get that remediation early on is just so critical. So this documentary really works hard to spread the awareness. We have people from Charles Schwab, Richard Branson, Sally Shaywitz, and then some parents who discuss the stories of being with their own children and their struggles. And I just want to, I'll share the link at the end if you're interested in doing this, but this is really a prime time to think about maybe perhaps organizing a viewing of this film, maybe if you are doing it in conjunction with your local, parent advisory council for public schools, or through your public library. That is who I helped coordinate it with me at the time. And we're in the middle, end of July right now, but putting those wheels in motion and thinking about doing that for the fall, for the month of dyslexia, that could be great. And then that just really opens up the lines of communication, because there's so much that people still don't know about dyslexia. So this is one vehicle to do that. So I really strongly encourage you to think about doing that. And I have one of these, perhaps two, but stay tuned, because in the next, I'd say within like the next week, I'm going to give one away, maybe two, not sure yet, but I am going to be giving one away. So you definitely want to check for my emails, watch my Facebook posts, things like that, and see when I'm doing the giveaway, because I just am so passionate. I love this documentary, first of all, but I'm just so passionate about wanting to spread dyslexia awareness and helping people get the wheels in motion. So I think this is a great way to do that, and I'd love to help you out. Okay. And if you have any questions about it at the end, feel free to comment. I'll put the link to it. You can finally just buy it on Amazon now. For a while there, you couldn't, but you can. Okay. And then finally, I see a few people saying hello. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So I was thinking about how to organize some of my lesson plans and how to help teachers who work in small groups with Orton-Gillingham lesson plans as well. And I came up with this idea to create anchor charts. Now, you don't have to be Orton-Gillingham trained to use these materials at all. It just kind of, I think, brings all of the pieces of multisensory instruction together really, really nicely, though, and shows a little bit of how to do that all on one big piece of paper. So here's an example of one. I didn't fill all of the pieces in, but I'll just go over it. It's on sale in my store right now if you're interested, and I'll put a link to that as well. So this So this is one of the anchor charts. Now people are thinking, oh gosh, that looks like a lot of work. Actually, it really wasn't. It took to put this whole thing together, print, cut, laminate, trim, and then I just used those little Velcro dots. I think it took about 10 to 15 minutes to create this one. But then I was thinking afterwards that it's possible that you could just, if you have one of those huge poster size laminators, you know, that like the secretary likes to keep under lock and key and doesn't like all the teachers to use because somebody breaks it and then walks away, right? That happens. That happens a lot in a building. Who broke the laminator? I don't know. No one wants to fess up. So what you could do if you wanted, if you have access to one of those large laminators, you could glue all the pieces down. Make sure that dries. No one likes to put things to be laminated with glue that isn't 100% dry. Okay? So don't do that. And then you can just feed the whole thing through. The only thing that you wouldn't feed through are these letters right here. Those you would need, you put the little blending board on there, and then afterwards you go in and put your Velcro dots on there after, and then you'd be all set. So if I was introducing this with my students, I'd say, okay, boys and girls, today we talk about what the letter is, our keyword. So the keyword is cat. It's not really necessary for them to know how to spell the keyword. I just put it on there. And then the sound that it makes. So all those associations coming together, C, cat, k. And then we would practice writing it. So skywriting certainly is one thing you want to do. You know, if you use Play-Doh at the time, sand trays, any multisensory tool that you want. And then you could have children come up and practice doing it on with a dry erase marker and an eraser. You could do that. Then there are some word cards here that are blank. So you would just write the words on there, and then some blank sentence strips that you could write some sentences. And then this is a little blending strip. I have a green light, so you want to go, and we want to try and blend together to yellow, to red, kind of like that traffic light thing I talk about a lot in my phonological awareness bundle. So all these letters come off. You can do it with just 2 letters, just spelling at. Okay, and if I put a C on there, okay, now I have cat. You can tap it, at, on there. You can swipe it with your finger, whatever you want, and then you can trade out some of the letters. And so instead of cat, I can do bat. I could make bad. Lots of different choices. So practicing making those different words. And then on here with the little cat on the mat. So you would practice writing it on here. If you wanted to have a child come up and do that, keep them active as much as possible. And then if this is your lesson focus for a few days, you would display that and children can refer to it. This can become a literacy station. So they have to go to it. They can change the letters around. They can practice writing on there, whatever you'd like them to do. Another nice thing I was thinking of, and all right, this is like way, way back when in like my preschool days, that's like super, super early in my teaching career. If you wanted, so you laminate the whole big, huge piece of chart paper, but if you're continuing to use these, you'd end up with a huge chart size book and then use metal rings and group them all together, and then you could refer back to them so that it's not just this one and done poster, it hung up and then you stash it away wherever. It should be an active chart that children refer to and practice with and can move the pieces around and so forth. So just trying to think of some other ways that you could utilize that. I think that's another great way to do it. So happy to answer any questions about the anchor charts. So what I'm going to do, the first set is organized by the alphabet, but then I'll do future sets organized by blends and digraphs, syllable types, syllable division, some vowel teams, and then spelling generalization, spelling rules. So I've kind of grouped them that way instead of doing level 1, level 2, level 3 as I follow, because not everyone follows those particular levels, but if they're grouped by, say, all the vowel teams, then perhaps more people would want to utilize them. And then some of the like the syllable type anchor charts. So there would be what the definition is at the top. Children can practice saying that. Maybe some syllable division parts on there with movable pieces. So just the chart is really to be interactive. It's just one more thing in your OG toolkit, but doesn't have to just be for Orton-Gillingham. It can be for any small reading intervention group, children who just need that repetition. You have struggling readers, they need a lot of repetition. They need to see it multiple times. They need multisensory practice. Okay? All right, so any questions, just let me know about that. And that wraps it up for this Sunday night. I will try my best to be here next Sunday night for you. I can't promise 100%, but I will try my very best. One more thing, if you are interested, we're gathering suggestions for a brand new book for the OG instructors book discussion group. So if you want to join in and start fresh with us, we're already gathering some suggestions for titles. So I'll leave the link to join that group. That is a closed group, but you can request to join, and you are more than welcome to join in the fun with that. We meet to discuss in the Facebook group on Thursday nights. So, and then that's different than my private group for trained Orton-Gillingham, Wilson people. That one, you send me an email to request to join, and just let me know a little bit about your training. It's so interesting. I was just looking back today on that group and realized that the private group has been running for nearly 4 years. I mean, that is just incredible. I mean, talk about the amount of just amazing support that's been in there over time. Just so grateful for those people who are in there. So thanks, Wendy, and thanks, Maureen. So I'll put the links to, just to wrap up, the picture books I discussed, to the big picture, that's Rethinking Dyslexia, and then the anchor charts. Those will still be on sale probably for about another 24 hours. But they've been in my store for a few days. Just if you haven't seen them, they're in there. Okay? So have a great night, everyone. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.